Well, well, well. Wasn't that all much ado about nothing? Or was it? Beth's dead, Dawn too, and the team is whole again, except now with no mission, no direction, no hospital, and Eugene is still sleeping. We killed another Bob, got a little demonic with zombies taking over a church, then got a little holy by adding a Noah to the group. We learned that Maggie actually did give a damn about her little sister after all, and cops can still be the biggest assholes on the planet, and this is during a zombie apocalypse. Welcome once again to the Agents of Helm, the weekly Walking Dead special. I'm Malik, and I'm joined by my fellow agents, Johanna,
Hey.
Lorenzo,
What's up, Malik?
what's going on, and Joe.
What's up, people?
So AMC's hit series aired its winter finale entitled Coda, and it appears that they finally completed the Grady Memorial Hospital storyline with mixed reviews. What have we learned? Not much, but at least we can move on from here. So Johanna, I'm going to let you start us off. What's your opinion of Coda, and what have you seen thus far in this season of The Walking Dead?
Well, Malik, I think that throughout the season, once we started this hospital storyline, my opinion of it has been much publicized. And unfortunately, this episode was more of the same with the added bonus at the end that it might very well be over. So I've really been, as much as I hate it, I don't like to dismiss it. I do love The Walking Dead, so I've really been trying to think about why. Why Beth? Why the hospital? Why did it not work for me and for a lot of other fans? So the way I started to see Beth is the lens into the hospital. She doesn't have much purpose beyond that. She's the one who asks questions. She randomly befriends Dawn, and you don't really know why. And there's this little bullshit throwaway line after Beth kills the cop and throws him down the elevator shaft about, oh, you remind me of me when I was younger. It was just this throwaway line that we get kind of randomly and doesn't really seem to explain why Beth is following her around and all this other stuff. So Beth is the way for us to get into the hospital, to get into this idea. On Twitter, they're talking about how the hospital is representative of order, law and order, and even though they do have order, it's still really fucked up. So what happens when the plot is over? We no longer need the hospital to show this. It's no longer needed. Beth needs to die, right? Because it's over. We don't need her to ask any more questions. So how much sadness can you really feel over a character who's simply there to ask questions? And once they die, it's it. And you guys know that I usually carry a bucket for my tears when it comes to stuff like this. I didn't really cry. I didn't feel anything beyond the fact that this ensemble of actors is a fantastic ensemble of actors. The way Rick breaks down in that scene where Beth is shot as she tries to stab Dawn in the neck because Dawn is trying to take back Noah to be her quote-unquote ward.
Spoiler alert.
Their reactions are beautiful. They're very well acted. This plot, this storyline is not worthy of them. So that was an issue that I had. Another issue that I had with the hospital storyline is that these characters they had to build up for us to understand Dawn, are completely indistinguishable. And not just because they're cops or because they wear uniforms. They have these names: Matthews, Richardson, Torvald, blah, blah. I couldn't tell them apart, and it made it really hard to really feel compelled by them. So the confrontation that happened was almost as anticlimactic as the end of the second Twilight movie, where no fighting happens and they all kind of look at each other, except in the Twilight movie, it all, is proven to be a vision and they move on from there. We do not get that. We get that this happened and it's a really terrible storyline. So, things that were good, and I'll keep this short so we can continue. Michonne hacking at zombies with the baby on her back was boss. I've been complaining about not enough Michonne badassness. This kind of wet my palate for that. surprise zombie face slice, Gabriel finally doing something or taking the credit for it, Rick going ham on everybody and taking names, doing a Grand Theft Auto on that guy and like shooting him in the head and just being a general badass. I think he's supposed to. There wasn't a lot of development with his character, which I think goes back with the problems with the theme this season, which seems to be you can't go back, which is an extremely static theme. How much can you say beyond Tyrese still wants to live like he doesn't have to kill people? Sasha's changed. This person's changed. Abraham is kneeling on the ground. Oh, now he's in a fire truck. How much more can you say beyond that? How can characters evolve within this theme? And also, how does this theme tie back to the more exciting episodes in the beginning with Terminus, the Terminus guys, and the massacre at the church? So that's all I got.
So it looks like obviously your take on it is a bit negative in scope. I think that Lorenzo, you have a different point of view on it, correct?
Well, I enjoyed the episode, and it sounds like Johanna might have enjoyed it too, despite herself. What I liked about this episode was that it seemed to right from the beginning when Bob 2, first of all, I mean, he's the red herring. Bob 2's the red herring. He's what ends the last episode. He's the last thing you see in the last episode. He's the first thing you see in this episode, but he's quickly dispatched by Rick, and Rick kills him and justifies it by saying that Bob wouldn't stop running. He just wouldn't stop. And so I wondered why Rick couldn't have just chased him down. The guy was handcuffed. He was not going to get away. And to me, it seemed like perhaps Rick was being not controlled, but being pushed by forces that were greater than himself. I got the same impression from Beth when at the end it reminded me of Django, where Schultz shoots DiCaprio. It was like he just couldn't resist, like he couldn't live with himself if he just walked away, so he couldn't live. And we see this, and I think Dawn mentions it too when she talks about how what a coincidence it was that Carol and Beth found each other at the hospital. And then, of course, Carol wakes up just in time to be moved in the wheelchair instead of being moved in a cot. And so it just seems like there's all these forces at play that are not on the surface. You get that with the shootout, you get that at the beginning, and you get that at the end. I felt like it's like logic didn't seem to be the prevailing force throughout this episode, and I'm going to give the show the benefit of the doubt. I'm not going to attribute this to more hackery. I like to think that what we're seeing is something kind of like destiny or fate, bringing the group to something bigger than all of this. And so for me, this episode was sort of that jumping point for sort of like into a great unknown. And I like to think that this group is being brought together by something like the hand of God. And I think that's where the priest comes in, because otherwise he's completely useless. But when you think about it, like the only reason why he escaped at the very end when they're crawling underneath the church is the machete was there, right? The machete that was given to him, the machete that he used to escape, the machete that was just like stuck harmlessly in the floor. It ends up splitting the head of a zombie that would have landed on top of him. And so again, it's like these forces are out there that are kind of watching out for them, and bringing them to this point. So as they lose the church, they go out into the world, and they are bringing this with them into this new frontier, which we are going to see when we get back from the hiatus.
Okay. So, Joe, what about you? What was your feelings about Coda and the season thus far?
Okay, so I actually didn't even know what the word coda meant. So I looked it up, and it's something that ends and completes something else. So I guess that's perfect for this. That's a perfect name for this episode, since we get the ending of the hospital storyline, and we get the ending of the fall season. But that said, I thought after Rick hits Bob 2 in the beginning, the episode when he hits him and he sends him flying like 20 feet, and then he puts him out of his misery by shooting him in the head. I thought we were going to be like pedal to the metal. This is going to be like episode 1 of this season. I thought we were going to be on that kind of a ride, and it just didn't. We didn't. I don't think we got that. I thought that it was kind of slow, with the exception of the beginning and the end. I mean, we did have the zombie attack on the church, but again, I felt there was nothing at stake there. I didn't feel like Gabriel, Michonne, or Carl were in any danger. I mean, even when they get out of the church, they nail the door shut, and then they just hang out there, just waiting for Rick and them to come back. And even as the door is breaking open, they're still standing there. They're like, where are we going to go now? And then Gabriel, I mean, not Gabriel, what's his name? Abraham and his crew and Glenn, they come running in to save them by parking the fire truck in front of the door. I thought that was a little campy. How Michonne and them didn't hear that coming. Again, it didn't seem right. But prior to that, what also didn't seem right to me was Gabriel going out to the school to check to look to see if to validate Rick's story of Gareth and his crew. He had to see Bob's leg. He needed something to say that, yeah, Rick and his crew were right about doing what they did in the church by massacring these people. I mean, it just didn't make any sense. Why would you go out to just to see that, and you have no experience fighting zombies? Every time this priest has left, he has been under siege with zombies. He's got like the worst luck ever. Rick and everybody else can walk around for days with barely encountering one or two. As soon as this guy walks out the church, he's under siege with zombies. From earlier episodes when he was on the Rock, and then now as soon as he steps out the church, he's like all over the place zombies. And then the attack on the hospital seemed kind of anticlimactic to me. Losing Beth was no big deal to me. She's been missing since season 4, pretty much the second half of season 4. You barely saw her in season 5. I mean, there was nothing there. I mean, it was like, I think it feels like we got to kill somebody, or else people are expecting us to kill somebody. We got to kill somebody. Let's kill Beth. And I think that was your least impact of a kill. Like, you don't lose anything when you lose Beth. Yeah, the reports are saying, oh, you lose your morality, you're losing this, you're losing the sunshine. Yeah, who cares? We're in a post-apocalypse here. She doesn't bring any skills to the table. She's not doing anything for the group, except being possibly that moral compass. So you know what? She could have still been alive if she only stabbed Dawn in the neck. Why stab her in the shoulder? I mean, it was just bad. And the last thing is, they should have done it Rick's way right from the beginning. If they had done it Rick's way, and I know Malik and I disagree on this, but had they done it Rick's way, I think she still would have been alive. Now, I know Malik's going to say, well, they didn't case out the joint. They didn't do any recon, but I think he would have done the recon. I mean, granted, look, they went into Woodbury in season 3 with nothing to go, and they rescued Glenn, Maggie, and they failed in rescuing Andrea, but they were successful, and I think Rick would have pulled something out of his ass to get them out of there without losing them. But hence, that's not what happened, and it's all Tyrese's fault.
real quick, wasn't just going back to your Woodbury
Uh-huh.
comment? Wasn't Michonne with them when they went back to
Yeah, but
Woodbury?
I'll tell this to you. Why they trusted Michonne? I mean, you said earlier, off the
Well,
podcast, people. Um, you don't trust Noah. They just met him. They just met Michonne. They didn't know they could be going into a trap, but they went anyway. And Michonne had no idea of the bottom layer of where they were being held because she had never
hmm
been down there. She had only
hmm
been upstairs. She didn't know what the hell was going on downstairs. And they made it out. They lost Andrea, but they made it out. They made it out this hospital, and they lost Beth. I thought Andrea was a bigger loss, but you know,
Well, I think that
rest in peace, Beth.
I think that the feelings about Andrea were a bit harsher than the feelings about Beth at the time of her character's demise.
No, I
I
agree with
actually,
that. I agree with that. But here's the thing: I'd rather have a hated character because at least Andrea did something that you hated. Beth didn't do anything that you wanted to love her or hate her. She was just there. You know what I
see,
mean?
I disagree with you. I disagree with you from that standpoint. I think that the Beth character has always been probably the last good character in terms of just good person. Like that there's that you it was un, she was for a long time she was uncorruptible, right? No, she always saw the character always tried to see no matter what was going on around her. She was relatively innocent, and she always tried to see, the good in people or in situations, or always tried to bring about like a light at the end of the tunnel. And that was what her character had been for pretty much the entire run of the show. So when we get to this hospital sequence where she starts to change and she starts to realize that you can't trust anybody, and she starts to realize that even a hospital, a place of refuge, a place of healing, and a place of safety, of supposed safety, can be an absolute place of horrors. And that you can't trust anybody, and that no one is, no one is incorruptible. You can't trust the police, you can't trust doctors, you can't trust anyone. And I think that that was where she finally snapped, and she had that moment where she realized that there is no safety, there is no, like, there is no refuge. Like, she was not going to become that. She had changed. That person that she had been for the entire run of the show, that person that always saw the good always saw the good in things, had changed, and that person was never coming back. And when she saw that and she recognized it and she lashed out at Dawn, it just triggered that. It triggered that. And so to me, it was her character coming full circle, and I thought that she did have value, because, and that's why I think that she was important to the group, because she was the one that was, before Tyrese started running around with the baby. It was Beth, right? Taking care of the baby, and nursing the baby, and doing all of those things for the baby, and being there so that Tyrese could be Tyrese. So Tyrese becomes, Mother Teresa, because Beth is not around, right? So we get upset about the fact that Tyrese has become this, like, soft, this soft little chump. And the reality of the situation is, it pretty much coincides with when Beth left the group.
I disagree with
She was
that.
no longer around. But
He
it
was
does coincide with
he's
that
been
in
pretty
terms of
chumpy
the.
the whole time he's been there. With the
No, no.
exception of killing the zombies that one time when they closed the door earlier this season. Even when they had the assault on Woodbury, he was kind of like really
He's
hesitant to do anything. I mean, we could talk about this later, but I feel like the Tyrese character hasn't lived up to the graphic novels.
Well, you got to also
He's not.
remember the Tyrese character in the graphic novels, it comes from a different time or a different place than the Tyrese character from in the show. In terms of the character itself, is, joins Rick almost in the very beginning in the comics, and is like, he's his Shane. He is Shane, basically,
Yeah,
in the novel, in the book. And that character, is a completely different person, a completely different character in the story, in the story. But so I say all this to say that I feel like that the Beth character, and having that full arc, and kind of to Lorenzo's point about, like, where do we go from here? It's all there's nowhere to go from here. It's all, like, completely destroyed. It's all messed up. We don't have a mission. We don't have something to fight for. We're not going to DC. We're not. What are we doing? You know, the one thing that they could actually do is go get Beth. And to what I was telling you before, Joe, and before we shot, was this is probably the one mission or one of the singular missions that they've gone on that they failed at. That
Well, they
they've
failed
gone
to get
out.
Andrea.
They didn't really see. That's the thing. They didn't really fail to get Andrea. Andrea willingly went back to the place to try to convince
and she
the to
and
know
Beth
she
and Beth
willingly
was
went
out,
back.
and she willingly went to stab Dawn, and Dawn shot her. I
But
mean,
that's what I'm saying. That's not their mission was to go and get Beth, and them not coming out. That scene with Daryl coming out with with a dead Beth in his arms was to me very telling because it was the first time. Honestly, it was the first time where this group, this A team group, looked like they lost, looked like they came out as the losers in this situation. Um, and now and they don't have anywhere to go from here. So I think this is a very lost group, and losing Beth and losing this situation, is kind of like indicative of where they are and where they will be when this whole thing starts, and they'll be looking for a new mission or a new reason to like exist,
well,
or a new reason to move to keep moving forward because they don't have anything right now. They
I
have each
guess you,
other, but that's it.
I mean, outside of staying
yeah.
alive, I mean, yeah, I mean, they didn't really have a mission before. I mean, they were always just going place to place, just trying to find shelter and trying to stay alive. And I think that mission stays the same. That stays the course. They got to go find some place to live, some food. Uh, where's the next food source going to be? All this stuff. It's always going to be the top priority for them. Now they don't have DC anymore, and granted, Rick, Daryl, and everybody who was in the hospital has no idea about that because they haven't hooked up. But at the end, I'm assuming at the end of the episode, everybody you just assume that they find out, obviously.
Yeah, well,
But I
they'll
mean,
know.
they're going to they're gonna. I think it's status quo. They just like they've always done, try to stay alive, find shelter, and you get glimpses of that in the teaser trailer for the spring season. But we're gonna lose more people and we're gonna
I
gain more
mean,
people. So that's just the way The Walking Dead is. Don't get
but
too
I
attached.
I
Go
mean though,
ahead, Hannah.
like,
Sorry.
so sorry.
Hmm.
I think though, to Malik's point, I guess you could draw parallels if you wanted to between Eugene and Beth in terms of the fact that there is a mission lost, and it kind of causes what I like this website called TV Tropes. So there's something called the heroic blue screen of death, which is when something totally horrible happens to a hero that they either go into like a fugue state or just like break down, kind of like what we saw when Beth died, and very much what we saw with Abraham when Eugene reveals the lie. Um, so if Beth indeed is like this mission, it's she's this symbol of innocence to the group. Um, then I guess you could draw parallels, and I think that they've always had some sort of mission in the end, and this one was especially important. I guess my misgivings about it is that it's not well developed. That idea is not well developed. We just don't spend enough time with Beth this season before she gets to the hospital, or at all before where that emotional connection is no longer there, if that makes any sense. So
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that you're
yeah,
meant to like infer a lot about Beth, the
yeah,
character, rather than knowing her purpose or knowing like what Carol is to the group, what Daryl is to the group, what Glenn is to the group, and you can go down the list of pretty much every character, with the exception of probably Beth and maybe Rosita. Um, and
Rosita is very important to the group. Don't get it
Rosita's
twisted.
important to you, Joe.
very important.
She's very important to Joe. She's not
Joe
necessarily important to this group. And
Joe's
and
gonna have a heroic blue screen of death if she
She has
does.
a moral compass. There's something there. I just haven't put my
There's
finger on it.
something.
I mean, I think not for nothing. I think that the Beth death, the death of the Beth character, is more was probably the most important death of that group and was more important than Bob. I think Bob's death was a lot more anticlimactic and a lot more unnecessary than the death of Beth. Because what does Bob's death, um, what does it foreshadow? What does it bring about?
Bob
Nothing.
1 or Bob 2?
Bob 1.
Bob one.
Bob 1. Bob 1. Bob 2. Bob 2. I think Bob 2's death was just like Johanna said, just all sorts of awesome, wrapped in a bottle. It was a completely unnecessary, and the Lorenzo, you're right, probably could have done a lot, a lot of different things. Didn't have to run him over with the car, but
That stopped 3 times. What else are you supposed to do?
but it was fun. I enjoyed that scene.
He yelled stop 3 times.
He did.
That's
He yelled
the
stop 3
general
times.
rule. The general rule.
If it tells you to stop 3 times, you should stop on the second one at least. Don't go
Yeah.
3.
You're a regular police officer, Joe.
Yeah, I would love to be a post-apocalyptic police officer. Come on.
Hey, I said stop. You didn't stop, so I ran you over with a car.
It's Rick's. What did Keegan Michael Peel call it last night on Talking Dead? He said the 1 strike rule now. Rick has a 1 strike rule. You mess up once, you're dead.
So what are we looking forward to with this new half of the season? Lorenzo, is anything particular that you want to see happen in the next 8 episodes of The Walking Dead when it returns in February? The February break?
Yeah, I want to see the A-team kicking ass in the fire truck.
Yes.
I want to see them putting out fires. I want to see them turning. I want to see them doing like a Grand Theft Auto side mission where they just become firefighters and rack up bonus points and cash.
They can't, man. You wasted all the freaking water. There's no water in the damn fire truck.
They can just shoot zombie juice at other zombies.
Disgusting. Liquefied guts.
Johanna, what about you? What are you looking forward to?
More Michonne badassery. I don't know if that's gonna happen. More gore. I can't believe I'm saying this, you guys. More gore.
Yeah.
I can believe it.
You can believe it. Why?
She's changing.
We're changing.
Johanna's like Beth. She's changing.
You can't go back. I can't go back. I really, now that we have all these people, we've got Jaleel White, we've got Ron Perlman, and we've got Rosita and all these people. Ron Perlman's Abraham. I really want to see the conflict between them because it's a hell of a lot of people. And I really like Lorenzo said, kind of, I just want to see more A-team stuff. Like just them going and massacring zombies and
Putting out fires.
Putting out fires.
Joe, what about you?
I'm waiting to see who the next villain's going to be. Who's going to be the next big baddie that they have to face off against? I hope they introduce, a villain from the comics. I won't say who, but I hope they introduce him, and maybe not. If they don't, I hope they introduce some other villain. I want to see them go up against somebody. I want to see all the chess moves. I want to see Rick go after somebody, which will mean we'll have to lose another character or 2 along the way, which is going to happen anyway. So that's what I'm looking forward to. And it looks like they found some shelter based on the teaser trailer. So yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I think I'm mostly looking forward to moving out, getting away from Atlanta. I think that the city and the confines of the city and like we already knew in the very first episode of the very first season of this show that there was nothing good in Atlanta, and that the best thing to do is
I didn't even realize that they were still so close to Atlanta. I don't think. I mean, they've been traveling around for so long, and yet they haven't gone anywhere.
Yeah, they haven't gone very far at all. I mean, even the DC crew went like 20 miles north, and then their shit broke down.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, that
put glass
timeline for
in the
them
tank.
is just way off, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, their sense of direction is way gone. That's what happens when you lose GPS. That's what happens. You have no, and you have nowhere to go. I mean, and the thing is, I mean, most of the stuff they're all on foot, right? So they're not really they haven't really had transportation for a while. I think wherever they've been going to, except for the DC group, which had the truck, and they've lost what 3 vehicles now.
Yeah, they just can't keep vehicles together.
I
think Eugene's sabotaging all of them, just like he sabotaged the fire truck. I put glass in there. I don't want to get to DC.
Well, maybe not. Maybe once he wakes up and realizes,
The dude's been sleeping for 3 episodes now.
Seriously, that is the hardest punch I've ever seen in my life. Like, Abraham.
He's a big guy.
It had all his hopes and dreams in it, you guys. Just,
yeah.
So that's about all we have. That's about all we have for you tonight. The agents will be back very soon with Johanna's episode, right?
Death comes to Pemberley.
Oh, Lord.
What? You guys are watching, right? You guys have finished. I know you guys. You guys are finished.
Death comes to my eyeballs.
I am almost ready to start talking about this stuff again.
I'm so excited.
Almost.
I'm so excited. It's like Christmas. It's early Christmas for me.
Well, at least we have that to look forward to, and then
Christmas?
No. That comes to Pemberley. I you know what? Not for nothing. The Pride and Prejudice podcast was a lot of fun for me. So I will be looking forward to whatever Johanna has cooked up for us for this one.
Sure, it'll be great.
Was that sarcasm, Lorenzo?
You're just dripping with sincerity, aren't you?
Well, that's all we have for you tonight. For Lorenzo, Johanna, and Joe, I am Malik. We are the Agents of Helm. Find us online wherever you look for Agents of Helm. Google us, or you can go to agentsofhelm.com, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Tumblr, wherever you look for the Agents of Helm, we are there. Have a great night, and we will see you soon. Peace out.